this is what, like I said, I had posted up to the news group. So certainly if you have any questions, I've answered a few questions already some folks have had about that, but if you have any questions after reading that and after seeing this video, please post those. What the very first thing that I'm doing here is I'm checking to see if 3 numbers were entered on the command line. Now this particular script is not going to prompt you to say enter number 1, enter number 2, enter number 3. It is taking its variables right off of the command line. So when I run this, what I would do is actually key in 3 numbers right there with spaces separating them in front of the script name, and it will run. If I try to give it less than 3, it's going to come back and tell me no, you need to enter 3 numbers. If I try to give it 4, the same thing. It's looking for exactly 3, and the way that is done is through this if command. And this particular parameter right here is a special variable, this $pound, that indicates how many numbers or parameters were entered on the command line when you executed the command. And if you remember, I executed this as add num space 10.20.30, and it's 10 space 20 space 30. So that would equal 3. This value right here would be 3. And what I'm doing here is I am using the equals operator and comparing it to the number 3. Now I believe in the assignment you're looking for maybe 4 numbers or 5 numbers, so obviously a simple change to this number that you're comparing against would take care of that issue. Now remember that your if statements are always completed with an fi. That's just a particular standard of the bash environment. No real rhyme or reason to that other than the guy that originally developed the bash, the Bourne shell, was I guess the best way, it was enamored with that particular syntax. So what we have after this is some simple echo statements. What the echo statement does is we'll parrot back to you anything that you type after it. And notice I have in double quotes here the first number is colon. So what will happen is that this particular statement right here will be brought back to the screen along with the value of $1, $2, or $3. Now these numbers represent the positional parameters. And when I say positional parameters, these are the numbers 10, 20, and 30. You can have up to 9 of those without doing some special programming. If I had a 4th number out here, that would be $4, a 5th number would be $5, and so forth. So that is just echoing back what numbers have been input. Now that is testing, of course, as long as they've entered at least 3 numbers. If they didn't enter 3 numbers exactly, then we come down here and we don't even bother with the calculations. We just tell them enter 3 numbers. The addition is handled right here. My sum being the value or the variable that will contain the sum, and it can be called whatever. I called it my sum. You could call this summation. You could call this my variable. You know, whatever you really want to call it. There's nothing magic about the word my sum or the name my sum. Now, one thing to pay attention to: these double parentheses are a requirement. They have nothing to do with grouping of numbers. Now, if, for instance, you want to group numbers, say you wanted to do $1 plus $2 times 3, and you wanted to group the $1 and $2 together, you would put grouping parentheses within this block, just like you have here. But these have to be doubles no matter what. This has nothing to do with groupings of numbers. So, for instance, what I might do in a case like this, let's say I wanted to do a division, for instance. And I'm just going to put a number. My num equals, and I might do something like $1 plus $2 divided by 2, and let me put one more over here now. And what that is, I have two parentheses on either end that have to be there, like I said, and then your internally nested parentheses are just a match. So one for the left, one for the right, one for the left, one for the right. These parentheses in here are for grouping. So you have to have these external double parentheses no matter what else you're doing. And then down here I'm doing a simple echo statement to get out the value of my sum, which I used up here. When you are assigning a value to a variable, you do not use the $sign. When you are wanting to extract the value of the variable that has been set, then you use the $sign. And what I have down here is some simple if statements. This is something, one way that you might be inclined to do your grade comparisons, to derive a letter grade from a range of grades. You're comparing an average that needs to fall between 90 and 100. That's an A, so you want to assign an A to it. You can use multiple if statements to do that. What I've done here is if the number my sum is greater than 10 and if my sum is less than or equal to 50, this is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, then print this statement. And down here I'm doing a comparison. If my sum is greater than 50, notice this is the greater than, not greater than or equal to. It'll just say that the number is greater than 50, and then I have a less than statement down here. If statements are one way you can do this comparison for your, I think, assignment 6.4. You could also use the case and ESAC environment, which I don't really have time to go into on this video, but that is one other approach that you could take that would work equally well. And don't forget, when you do your if statements, if, then, and always terminate with an FI, or you will get errors that are extremely difficult to debug because you're wondering why the script is not terminating properly. That's an easy mistake to make. This end of script down here is merely a comment, not required, but probably good programming practice. And with that, I'll go ahead and close up for now. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them online. Thanks.